What's up, you guys? I hope you are doing well. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hello, my name is Mpho. Today we're very casual. It is December. Is it how it's going to be the whole of December? I don't know, but I hope so. So I recently turned 29 on the 29th of November, so 29 on the 29th. And as you do with all of your birthdays, but maybe more so birthdays just before the next decade of your life, you get very reflective. So I wanted to share some of those reflective moments. I wanted to share 5 things that I'm learning now later in my 20s that I'm grateful for. But it would have been cool to have learned some of these lessons earlier in life. So if you think you could be into that, to stick around. But before we get into them, I just want to share a little bit about my birthday. I had a very amazing experience with my husband. We went to Cape Town, and it was actually our first time in Cape Town. And it was so cool to experience a city in the middle of a jungle, it felt. And I guess it's because of the mountains that Cape Town is surrounded by. And at the same time, we had the body of water so big. There's something humbling about seeing naturing, seeing nature being nature and being effective at being without the influence of us humans. In the morning of my birthday, we actually took a walk to the beach, and it was just sitting and looking at the waters and just reflecting and seeing just how the waves crash perfectly each time, seeing the clouds above also just forming and moving, and the wind also in rhythm. And that just shows just how capable God is of being in control, and how the world is effective, especially when we don't try to be in control. And I guess most of the lessons will be around that, because that's been top of mind. The whole concept of just letting go and letting God do what God does best, and letting yourself be a natural being, allowing that to flow. I'm not going to do a lot of lessons because clearly I speak a lot, even the intro was just so long. So I'm going to do 5 things, and obviously if there's more things to talk about, we can always have a second video, a follow-up, third, however. Okay, so the first lesson is purpose is personal. What God has called you for is between you and Him. What I found myself doing, especially in the earlier parts of my 20s, I wanted people to validate the things that I felt like I was being called to do, to give permission almost. You wanted to know that what you were feeling, or what you wanted to do, what you felt called to do, made sense in the eyes of the other person. And it shouldn't. It doesn't have to make sense in the eyes of the next person. I'm currently reading the book Bamboozled by Jesus, written by Yvonne Oji. And there's something that she references in the book that actually taught me this lesson. She said that if the calling that you have was supposed to be understood by the next person, it would have been a conference call. But it wasn't a conference call. It wasn't a Teams invite or Zoom call that many of us had the invitation to, and many of us could participate in. It's really something that's totally between you and your God and your life and what you want to do. So the validation that I've been wanting on ideas, the validation that I've been wanting on things that I want to do, I'm not going to get it from the outside world. I'm only going to get it if I sit down and sit back and sit alone with God and sit alone with my thoughts and really pay attention and to what is it that I'm being called to do, and in obedience, in taking the next step and seeing where God is trying to take me. If there's anyone that needs to be convinced, it's actually me. I should be sitting back and allowing the good Lord to speak to me, to tell me what it is that He needs me to hear. And once I am convinced, and once I take that first step, trusting that He will do the very same magic that He's just done on me, on the people that are supposed to be part of the mission. But it's not for me to then go out and be like, this is what I want to do. What do you think? This is what I feel like I'm being called to do. What do you think? No. The second lesson is put your oxygen mask first. This also comes from, so in our trip to Cape Town, I flew commercially for the first time. So I've flown privately before, but commercially it was my first time. And just hearing, the signal that if the oxygen levels were to drop as we're up there, you need to put your oxygen mask first, make sure it's effective in working on you first, and then you can help children and you can help other people who need help. And that is actually an important reminder for me, someone who is a people pleaser. Now, I mean that not just in the negative connotation of you're a people pleaser, but also in the sense that I think it is a beautiful burden that God could have placed on me to not necessarily just care for myself and my own path and my own well-being, but to really be concerned about the well-being and the path of other people. So when I say people pleaser, yes, there's a negative connotation to it, but there's also the empowering part that I'm deciding to claim. That is really just a part of my nature as someone who's not selfish, and as someone who wants to make sure that people generally around me are happy. And it is honestly a superpower in the world that is more about individualism and just rewards a winner takes all type of mentality. However, in the earlier parts of my 20s, I think a lot of the decisions that I was making were centered around the number of people that would be happy with the decision. Not so much what it is that I want for myself, first and foremost, but more what makes sense for everybody else. And just seeing how even in my own life, I was coming second to the people that I love. I was coming second to the demands of work. I was just coming second to life. And just reclaiming that as I enter the last year of my 20s, and as I head towards being 30, I need to take care of myself first. I need to take care and make sure this person is happy first, and then I can effectively go on to helping the next person. Number 3, not taking action is also a choice. When you stay in a job because you don't have a choice, or when you stay in a bad relationship, when you stay at a church, when you stay in a city because you don't have a choice. Those of us who've been guilty of doing these things before must realize that we actually made a choice. We decided to stay. We decided to do nothing. And even in that decision to do nothing, in that decision to actually just be stagnant, that was a choice. We mustn't say we didn't have a choice. We just decided to act in the way that we acted. So those of us who studied economics or accounting or finance would know of a concept of sunk cost. And basically what sunk costs means, it's money that has already been spent in the past and cannot be recovered. In business, it would mean that if you were to make a decision today, the cost that you would have already spent, let's say buying the car, and now you want to decide what to do with the car, the cost that you've already spent and you can't recover shouldn't necessarily be considered in the decision that you make. So it is irrelevant. It is in the past. Whatever decision you end up going with, that cost will not change. But what I have seen many of us do is, especially as we decide to not act, is we call into what is called the sunk cost trap, where because we've already spent time, because we've already spent energy and money doing something, even though we can clearly see that it is not living up to our expectation, even though we can see that it is clearly not working out, it is clearly failing, we feel like we need to put in more money, put in more energy, put in more time towards saving that thing, because then we don't want to lose all the time that we've already spent. And girl, if you are 29, if you are 30, however old you are, for the most part, if you're watching this video, you probably still have way more life ahead of you than you do have behind of you. And if you were to continue to not act because you don't want to lose the time that you have spent already, because you want to lose the money that you've already spent, then you stand to lose more in the future. So just be aware that if you are faced with a choice, if you are in a situation where something is no longer serving you, deciding to stay, deciding to not act is a choice, is an action, and is very relevant today. It is not a sunk cost at all. The fourth lesson is that resilience is built, and it is built through hardships. For the most part, without challenges, without hardships, without setbacks, there is no resilient person. And I know in the world of today, many of us like to speak of how resilient we are, but we don't necessarily want the things that shape and build that resilience. I was actually very fortunate enough this year to go to a young leaders course at work, and one of the things we learned about was psychological rank and power and the privilege that comes with that. And one of the ways that psychological rank and privilege and power is built is through adversities. So the more you go through things and you see that actually you can overcome them, they don't kill you, you actually come out on the other side and maybe even more powerful and stronger, then you get to build that resilience. So when I was 14, I lost my dad. That is a very young age, and I know people have lost loved ones even earlier. At that age of 14, I learned that death happens. And when it happens, my life does not end. And it changed sort of what I define as a challenge in life. So much so that a few years later, when I was 19 and I lost my bursary, instead of crying about it, the thing that I did was literally wake up at 3 a.m. every morning to go work and still continue with my degree. If it wasn't for that one moment that I had earlier in life that just sort of change the benchmark of what I define as hard, I don't know how I would have acted. I probably would have thought, losing my bursary is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. But it wasn't, because I had gone through worse. So going through tough things in life builds resilience. And if you can, don't pray for a life without challenges. Don't pray for a life that's easy. Don't pray for a life that's smooth sailing. I mean, that would be nice, but that also just means that the smallest inconvenience would probably just throw you out. But yeah, build a life where you're strong and you're able to handle things, because that's what life is. It's changing. It is difficult. It throws things our ways, and you need to be a person that knows how to handle those things. And finally, lesson number 5 is the importance of investing in the life that you want. Invest in the life that you want. Invest in a life that makes you happy. Invest in a life that you're proud to live, a life that you're proud to even show off. Many of us, and I've been guilty of this also for a very long time, is that we think we don't have a choice or a role to play when it comes to putting together the pieces of our lives. We think life happens to us, but it doesn't. The time that you spend on social media looking at what other people are doing, looking at what you could be doing, it's time that you could be spending investing in the life of your dreams, right? Waking up early, spending time alone, meditating, exercising, eating more healthier. Those are things that then sleeping more. And some of these things I'm telling myself because I need to do a lot more of. Sleeping more, those are things that actually make for a better life. Spending time with loved ones, confidently and deliberately saying no to things that just don't add to the life that we want, and just realizing that we are in control. We can decide what we say yes to for the most part. We can decide what we don't participate in. We can decide that we want to spend more time with our families. All of those things are things that are very much in our hands. There's a saying that the life of your dreams is on the other side of discipline. And that's all it takes. Being disciplined, showing up, and being involved in the creation of the life that you want. That's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, let me know in the comment section. What do you think of the casual videos? I love them. It's nice to just sit back and not have to prepare a lot and just come here and talk and have a chat. So if you also find value in this, let me know. Until next time, bye.